My 40 male, wife 44 female, cheated with her friend's husband, both early 30s-ish, before she and I ever met. Yes, I'm concerned, but should I just let sleeping dogs lie? My wife made a mistake while we were conversing 2 nights ago, which prompted me to probe her and led to her disclosing that, before I knew her, she had a 6-month affair with one of her friend's husbands, who are now also my friends. This was before our buddy and the spouse were married. This allegedly occurred 8 years ago, around a year before she and I met. It certainly worries me a lot. However, I can't think of anything I should do as a result of that. Her companion is unaware of it, and it was allegedly limited to those 6 months. We've been married for 6 years, and I had no idea, nor would I have guessed it. Should I just leave sleeping dogs alone? Update. I had a discussion with my wife that went beyond the what/when and into the context of why/how could you. My wife and husband's first time alone was after she cared for their dog for 2 weeks while her friend and husband were both out of town on separate work trips. The husband returned home on Wednesday of the second week, and he took my wife out to supper to thank her. This led to a lot of drinking, albeit she couldn't keep her booze nearly as well as he could. Even when they returned to her friend and husband's house, they had driven to the restaurant together, with him driving. She was quite out of it, so she'd have to wait around their house for another few hours before driving herself home. They got to talking about the deeper, heartfelt things in their lives, with him telling her that his and her friend's marriage wasn't going so well, him asking her advice, each piece of advice being discouraged as not being viable for this or that reason. And the conversation leading to something more of him suggesting, the best solution right now is for me to have someone like you to talk, but my wife wouldn't like me talking one-on-one frequently like that, so she was at a point in her life when her self-esteem was low, and he began persuasively charming her. They eventually got to making out and all that, and then they had and she spent the night. They maintained in contact in secret, and the routine remained much the same as it had that night, without the excessive booze. Part of it was her misplaced sympathy for the husband. Part of it was their physical chemistry. Part of it was a guilty sense of it's been dragging on for X weeks/months now, so I guess continuing to be the one to whom he turns for temporary happiness doesn't make me any worse or guiltier of a person at this point, and part of it was the continued affirmation her self-esteem received from it. He began seeking and demanding more and more of her time and attention, to the point that her whole existence consisted of catering to his needs and being able to slip away for a few hours here and there. Eventually, the shame and stress of it all caused her to extricate herself from it, and they ceased being emotionally associated with one another, supposedly on good terms. She ignored them and much of her social circle for a time, but finally felt far enough from it all that she began re-entering it, even when one or both of them were there. She's learned to put it out of her mind since then, and it's simply a previous error from which she learned that seldom crosses her mind now. She claims she hasn't informed me because she is ashamed about it. She convinced herself that because she had learned her lesson, it wasn't necessary for her to warn me from the start of our relationship that it would be emotionally vomiting on me. Then, as time passed, her concern that whatever remaining struggle she had from it faded, and she concluded that it was pointless to ever tell me. She hasn't informed her friend because she doesn't want to be the one to break her friend's and husband's marriage. If he's found someone else with whom to cheat, she believes it's his problem, not hers. She claims she has never had a relapse experience with him, nor has she ever done something similar before or after meeting me. Even though I disagree with her and believe it was important enough for her to tell me at some time, particularly after we've been married for years and years, I've opted not to divorce her or do anything else. Basically, forgive her. I don't think it's my place to inform her friend, but I did tell her that I'd feel a lot better if she told apologize to her friend. However, it's been so long that I don't believe it's my place to demand that she confess everything to her buddy, merely to express my dissatisfaction with her failure to do so. I did urge, though, that she and I keep a lot more distance from her buddy and her husband from now on, and I will be the one to speak to the husband about why that is the case, so he knows that I know. Also, I'm afraid I won't be able to relax my guard around my wife for a long time. I had told her that if I ever found out she was cheating on me, I would no longer be able to remain with her. Yes, people evolve, and forgiveness exists, and this is essentially what is occurring here. However, her future adultery would suggest a lack of improvement. My major dilemma now is knowing that I should definitely keep a life with my wife, but also knowing that I'll have a hard time getting all of this out of my thoughts, and also knowing that avoiding a life with her would backfire and make her more prone to straying. But that's a bit of a digression from my initial point, so I'll stop here. Story 2. Wife cheating or not? I need opinions. My wife and I are both 34 years old, and I am 34 as well. To begin, I am employed in the construction industry outside of my home state. Despite the fact that we have been high school sweethearts, we have both married and divorced someone else, she having 2 children and me having none, just her 2. The biological father is conspicuously missing from the photograph. Since April, she has been pressing me to choose a different career path, in order for me to spend more time at home. My defense was that it wasn't as easy as that. I'm well known in my community and generate enough money to provide for my whole family. I'm not gloating or saying that it has made me a better person, and I've come to realize it's a weak reason for what happened. In the previous 2 months or so, we haven't gotten along very well. We were starting to drift apart. My phone records revealed that she had been calling a mutual male friend who was also going through a divorce much more often than I had been contacting her. In response to my questions, she was at first remorseful and denied that anything was going on, stating that she was merely helping him out by babysitting his child for a few hours. There was something I couldn't get out of my thoughts for 3 or 4 days. We were having a number of heated phone calls at the time. As seen by your phone bill, as soon as I mentioned it, the two stopped communicating with one another. When I threw it away, everything restored to usual. She said earlier this week that she needed some time to reflect on what she really wanted. I gave it a week and tried my hardest not to contact her throughout that time. I'd contact her and tell her how much I admired her, and she'd respond with a smile. When I inquired about the children, she provided me with a succinct answer. It was only when I directly inquired that he divulged anything. As a result, I made the decision to leave work today and come home to try to fix the situation. Following my disclosure, she advised that I should refrain from doing so, that I should give her some space and so on. I reassured her that everything was okay, and then we both hung up. My feelings about it worsened as the day progressed, and I decided to quit my job and drive home for an hour before calling my wife and informing her I was leaving. She flew off the handle, accusing me of being selfish for not giving her space, and she threatened to divorce me if I returned. I'm going to continue working since I don't have anything else to do at the moment. Recognizing that I haven't been the perfect husband, and that I probably should have quit and returned home, I'm also attempting to provide for my family as best I can. I'm quite aware that I have flaws of my own. I don't express my sentiments with the same intensity that she did, but I always made it clear that I cherished her. Cheating is the only thing that makes sense in my perspective, and I'm hoping that someone will be able to persuade me to think otherwise. I'm writing this while sitting in a Lowe's parking lot, feeling as sad as I've ever felt.